Hey, good morning, everyone. It's Brenda Meller with Meller Marketing back for another edition of Social Media Pie. And today I am joined by a very special guest, Deb Mourray. Deb, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Brenda. Thanks for having me. This is a great day to be live on broadcast.
Absolutely. And it is a pleasure seeing you on screen again. We haven't seen each other in person for a few months here. And guys, if you've been watching my Social Media Pie interviews, you may notice I'm outside for the first time today. I'm going to give this a try. I've got my little earbuds in to pick up on hopefully it reduces the background wind and noise. But it's a beautiful day. I don't know about you, Deb, but I kind of feel like, we've been cooped up inside the house for such a long time. I just need fresh air.
Yeah, I'm with you. My window's open, no air conditioning yet, maybe later.
Yeah, and it's going to be a beautiful day. Deb and I are both in Southeast Michigan, and I'd love it if you guys could drop a comment below. Let us know where in the world you are watching us from, both city, state, country, and even like, hey, what room in the house are you in today? I mainly work in my home office. Every now and again, I'll go into a living room or a different room, and today I'm sitting outside in my patio in the backyard. But where are you watching from? We can't see who you are until you identify yourself by commenting or if you like this video. So I would love it if you guys could leave a comment, and then periodically I will pop your comments up on screen. Like, for example, we have Cynthia Moni joining us who says good morning. So we'll have a little opportunity for some Q&A later on with Deb, and we'll be able to engage with you. So I just want to say good morning. Welcome, everyone. You're not alone in all of this, right, Deb? We are having a conversation about, gosh, we're doing these interviews, and I think we need to address the fact we're in the middle of a pandemic right now. Things are getting better in here in Michigan, and we're hearing things are going to start opening up a bit more, but we still have to have conversations with people, right, Deb, and have conversations like today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to connect, and I think that's one thing. I'm a Walsh Enrollment Consultant, so now I'm working from home, and I think that's what I've come to love about the Zoom is like the face-to-face connection.
Absolutely. And while we're on that subject, the topic we're going to be talking about today is, as Deb proposed, the topic of 7 steps to implementing a new idea or project. But before we get into that conversation, Deb, why don't you take a moment, introduce yourself. I know you from working together at Walsh when I was there years ago. But for those people who don't know who you are, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and then we'll get into the conversation.
Great, thank you. And I really appreciate, Brenda, the possibility of being here today with you. I know Brenda from Walsh. We met, she's our marketing director, and you're just a rock star. And I never had a doubt when you started out on your own that success was in your future. So yeah, it's great to be here. So my background, I'm a Walsh grad, finance, way back in the day. And I started in public accounting, Deloitte, Plant Moran, founded our own firm, Metzler-Lucricchio-Sarah. I like to say I'm out on good behavior because I spent many years in public accounting, and I did my time. I paid for my crimes, or sometimes I say I'm out on parole, which makes everybody wonder. But it was a great career. It gave me lots of opportunity to navigate in many different directions. And I'm now, as an advisor at Walsh, I love inspiring students to choose accounting. I'm known as like, don't talk to Deb, she'll talk you into accounting. And I might. I'll make sure you like it, though. So what I do now, I'm an enrollment consultant. I help students navigate programs. I work with the faculty. I'm kind of known as a person that can solve problems. Like if you got an issue, check with Deb. Really random things like, why can't this student get a job? I'll figure it out. Yeah. So that's kind of, and I just love it. Very inspiring to work at Walsh.
That's awesome. And how many years have you been there now?
I'm almost getting up to 10. I started.
Wow.
I know, and the great thing about 10 is I get another week of vacation.
Awesome. That's awesome.
I tell everybody I don't need to retire. I just need more vacation time.
That's not a bad thing, right? And we were talking before we got into this call this morning about, once businesses and organizations started to kind of shift their employees from working in the office to working from home. And you were telling me a little bit about kind of your thoughts on that. Why don't you share that with folks if you don't mind?
Yeah, I'm kind of old school. I like the person-to-person contact. And when they said we're all going home today, I'm like, no, I can't. I'm not ready. I actually stayed the next day and I went home.
Was that it? It was like one day they said, this is the last day in the office.
Yeah. I mean, it was really,
know,
it was sudden. It was like, what are we doing? So the next day I packed up all my stuff, and here's the delightful surprise. I found that I love it.
Yeah.
And I found that I'm still connected, and my appointments very rarely get canceled, because wherever you are, you are. You don't have to travel. We don't have to worry about traffic.
Right.
So it's been a lot of really sweet surprises.
Yeah, that's great. And Deb and I know each other also from Inforum, which is a professional networking group which helps women in their careers and organizations who support women in their careers. I'm going to drop the link in here in a little bit, because Deb and I are actually hosting a networking group next Saturday that usually meets at Walsh in the cafe, but we've moved it virtually, Deb. And, you know, in the beginning, I don't know about you, but I was kind of like, I don't think this is going to work. We'll try it. And, you know, I mean, you know, do you want to talk a little bit about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, thanks to Brenda and Forum, I just love that networking group. It's so connected. I encourage students to attend. Woman to woman, we do let guys in. We're not, you know, we'll go there. But it's and the topics are always so interesting. And again, we were delightfully surprised when we went virtual. It's like, really, our attendance is up. People can attend from wherever they are. There's no concern. You know, it was an 8 a.m. meeting. So some people had to actually leave their houses at 7 a.m.
Right.
You know, I'm 5 minutes away from Walsh, so that meant, you know, a 2-minute commute. But again, really great connections, and even virtually.
And I just dropped the link. It's a little bit long in here, but if you're interested in joining us, if you just go to inforummichigan.org and click on events, our next meetup for the Troy group is, I think it's June 11th. And we have Lynn Globner speaking about finding your meaning, a very important topic in this day and age. But check out that link if you're interested in joining us. And if you can't get to that quickly, just message me on LinkedIn and I'll ping it back to you. It's open to anyone, not just women, but men, and mainly in Southeast Michigan. But we do have people from other parts of Michigan and other parts of the world now that are joining us too. So let's change gears now, Deb. And you know, when I asked you, I've heard Deb speak before, guys, and she's one of my, you know, the co-leaders for the group that I'm involved with. And I said, I think you'd make a great interview. What do you want to talk about? And I always give people the choice, you know, pick anything that you're passionate about. And she said, hey, let's talk about 7 steps to implementing a new idea or project. So first up, I want you to help the audience understand why this topic. Is this important to you, and why did you choose it for today?
Yeah, great question. So the reason I chose it was I was involved in we've all been involved in new ideas and new projects, and they happen, right? We get to where we need to be. But I actually attended a seminar years ago through Landmark Education, the Wisdom course, highly recommend. And it kind of detailed the 7 steps. And I'm like, really? There's 7 steps. And as we go through them today, you'll see like there are different stages. And the value is, once you know the 7 steps, then you can actually navigate quicker and with more decisive action.
That's awesome. So let's, you want to jump in right now and start walking us through? Let's go. All right. Pop on screen as you're talking to summarize and get some notes as we go along the way here.
All right, good. All right. So what's the first step, right? So the first step is listen and express. So really what that step is all about is, do you have a big idea? Or, you know, what idea do you have? So, all right, so let's use a context, one example. So when I was at Walsh, I started, and I found that I did advising with students, and I found that after listening to a lot of students, I felt that they weren't feeling connected. So that was my listening, like, wow, they're not feeling connected. Why is that? And then, you know, I started expressing that. And then, so my big idea was, well, maybe we should have a student group so they can connect. So that's kind of like the big idea. What was my big idea? You know, listening to what was going on and having that idea. Maybe we should start a student group.
Was that ATSO?
That was ATSO.
I'm thinking as you're telling me the story, and it's like, it's kind of interesting whenever you hear somebody telling a story and then you remember the path and you're like, oh, I remember that. It was, what does ATSO stand for? I just remember it as ATSO, but maybe you can.
Accounting and Tax Student Organization.
Awesome. And is it still running today?
It's still running today. Listed as the most successful organization on campus. So not only is it still running, but we kind of blew the stats off a lot of the other organizations. But
well, I have to say, with someone like you behind this idea, Deb, right?
Well,
not a surprise.
Yeah, it's a passion project. And I can actually remember the specific day that a student sat in a chair doing an advising appointment, Brad Paisley, and
Brad Perry, or what was
Brad Perry. Yeah, Brad Perry. Yep. And we had the idea like it was an idea, right? Mm-hmm. Like, wow, okay, we got it. Now, let's talk about stage 2. Okay. Remember and forget. So this is the interesting stage. So Brad and I had this great idea, and it was a great idea. And then life gets busy. A week later, I forgot. We kind of remember and forget our big ideas. Like, oh yeah, I saw him a couple weeks later, and are you still thinking about that idea? Yeah, let's talk about getting some people together. And you go through this remember, forget phase. And it's interesting because it does happen usually with every big idea. You're not usually that disciplined where you got the idea and step 1, 2, 3 automatically occurs. So again, it's okay. And I think that's what the steps you'll see through all the steps. Mm-hmm. There's a positive and maybe a negative, like you might view as a negative, forget. But there's always a balance. You remember
it's a 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of thing. And I think, the remember and forget, it might be a good idea. And then when you forget about it and you think about it again, I think sometimes, when I'm driving or walking or whatever, I'm like, oh, this is a great idea. And then I forget about it. And then I come back to it later. I'm like, yeah, it wasn't that good of an idea. It was the caffeine from the coffee kicking in. It was like the caffeine kicking. But I think that helps to kind of round the good ideas out of the process.
Absolutely.
And keep them going.
Absolutely. Okay. It's kind of that natural vetting process. Does this idea really have, legs? Is it really something worth pursuing? Absolutely. So, all right. So let's go into our next stage, strengthen, build support, and fail. So let's talk about this, strengthen and build support. So, all right. So we're remembering, we're forgetting, we got the big idea. Now we're going to actually put it into action. So we're going to schedule. We've got some other students interested in it. There seems to be enough of an interest that we're moving forward. We're building support. Like, yeah, that is a good idea. Yeah, count me in. Maybe I'll be a vice president. So we're kind of building our team. Brad Perry was just a master at enrolling people in different support functions. And that's key. Your leaders have to be, I've had a lot of great leaders in this group, but the leaders that aren't what I call the Lone Rangers, and trust me, in accounting, we got a lot of Lone Rangers. We're very self-sufficient. We know how to get things done, but it's the ones that kind of build support. There he is.
Is that right? I want to make sure I get his profile because he may be watching, but if not, we'll tag him later in the video and we'll tell him we were talking about him today. But he looks like he's working at Robert Half now. Is that right?
Yep. And he was just so great at building a great team. So that's the important part about the strengthen and build support. We had the team, we're enrolling students, we've got possibilities happening, and maybe we schedule our first meeting. So we had our first meeting and, people showed up, it was great. And then, maybe the different part of that, the fail, maybe our next meeting, not as many people showed as we thought. So that's the fail part. So, one thing in all situations, you can't be afraid of fail. It's out there. It's going to happen.
Yeah. And you learn from it, right, Deb? And I, as you're taking your sip of coffee, you got a little circle, so I'm going to jump in here. I'm sitting outside, you guys, and I don't know if you know, my hair is kind of whipping around. I feel like I'm in like a music video because my hair is being blown around. But I'm learning a little bit. You make do, and I think good leaders and people who are able to quickly adapt to situations. Your audience doesn't want to see you fail. They want to see you succeed. So if you get a tickle, take care of your tickle and excuse yourself, get a sip. for me, it's like my hair's blowing around. I'm like, hey, hold on here a second, guys. I'm going to kind of fix that and we'll move on. And, with the organization, hey, if things aren't working, let your audience know, hey, things aren't working, but how can we work together to fix this to make it move forward together, right?
Yeah, and that's the important part about fail. It gives you that opportunity to look closely and change, pivot, add something, subtract something. Never to shy away from fail, because you have to have those failures to actually get to. So that takes you into the next stage: predict and tune, succeed. So those failures are key for predicting and fine tuning what is working. So what we found out was, this day worked. We tried different days to have our meeting on. Guess what day our meeting actually worked on? Nobody could predict this. Friday after work.
That's crazy. Was it more social than it was networking or business, or?
No, it was everything.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. Step 4 was predict, and what was the other word?
Tune. So you're predicting and you're fine tuning. So we had a meeting on Friday, and we had like 20 people showed up. I'm like, Friday? Nobody said it would work. 6 o'clock on Friday. So it wasn't conflicting with classes, fine tuning, right? Predicting and tuning. Fridays worked. It wasn't in the middle of your Friday evening plans. It was after work and people were just kind of available. So that was the, predict and tune. And so the other part to that, succeed. So like, oh my gosh, predicting and fine tuning, we had success. Yeah. So, the other part of the thing is not necessarily negative. You were predicting and tuning, you were finding out what's working. Yeah. So that was, again, nobody predicted it would work on Friday. Had a lot of not a lot of people say never happened.
But you got to try it. And, for me, I always tell people when I do these interviews, I never make mistakes. I always have learning experiences, right. When I come in, I'm like, oh, shoot, I didn't do that. But I'm not afraid. And I think that's part of the personality I do. And I think you as well, Deb, there's some transparency. I kind of say, hey, guys, I just had this happen. And I'm explaining what happened. One, in case anybody else is doing live video so they can learn from me. 2, so you can kind of understand what just happened. So you're not like, did the sound go out? What happened there? Was the lighting a blitz? So it's kind of addressing it, but then it's fine tuning my process. And when I first started doing these videos, I wasn't doing it with sound. Now I've got the earbuds, and now I've got the little lapel mic, and it's improving the quality, but that process is necessary. And it sounds like part of this success formula that you're going through right now as well.
Absolutely. I mean, your Meller marketing is the perfect big idea, and you've gone through these stages as you're now sharing with us. So it's so great. So the next stage, predict and tune, and then, talking about succeeding. And then the next stage is enhance and flood. So what do I mean by that? Enhance and flood. So imagine the big idea is working. We're having more success. So the enhance is, I figured out what the students really are interested in. What do they want to hear from? So I connected with my Walsh alumni, because really as a student, all in my limited, humble view, all you really want to know about, am I going to get a job? Right. It's a great education. I can count on it. But isn't what we really want is to get a great job and create a great career? So I started bringing in our alumni who could talk about actually working in the firms where they are.
This was a student organization. People who were these undergraduate and graduate students, or were they more one or the other? Okay, so it was a mix. So people who were, probably some were working, but maybe others were looking to enter the field.
Correct.
And anybody who's improving their education obviously has aspirations to continue to move up in their career, or maybe move into another career. So there's an interest there. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. And Rick Birschbach said, this is one of my quotes. Do you have your resume ready? Well, why would I have my resume ready? He says, it's always have your resume ready, because when opportunities blossom, time is of the essence. If you could just pivot and send your resume, that's the deal. Okay. So that was part of the enhance. Like, we figured out what would add to, what would make the students more excited, bringing in experts from the CMA, Certified Management Institute, bringing experts in, subject matter experts from Michigan Association of CPAs. So, and then the other half of Enhance is flood. So what is the flood? So the flood, imagine a flood, there's a wealth of good things happening. The meetings are happening, they're well attended. It's like there's a flood of just everything's working well. So
it's kind of like letting kind of that volume build up. And it's, I don't know, there's somebody who said, and if anybody knows watching this, feel free to drop in a comment below, but it was somebody that said, if you want to become an expert at something, you have to invest like 10,000 hours or 10,000 times of it or something. There was some number that goes along with it. If you want to become an expert, you can't just become an expert by doing it one time. You're not necessarily born with, even though we might have talents that are inside of us, we have to draw them out. And Deb, you and I have talked about, public speaking and being, in the platform and being comfortable being in front of video. You're not going to get that from the first time. You're going to get that from being on video time and time again and being asked to speak time and time again. And while we're on this topic, Deb, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a plug right now because I've seen you speak and I think you're a wonderful speaker for organizations. Are you open, if anybody's watching right now, to speaking engagements or people are looking for speakers for their events?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Love to do it.
I hope you don't mind to put you on the spot and ask you before. But I'm like, you're the kind of person I feel like I could ask that and I think you would have said yes. I'm not going to ask a no question. I guess is what I'm saying. But no, Enhance and Flood is great. It's it's a refinement process for sure.
And here's a little secret to what you just asked me about. I make it a point of always having a speech queued up in case a speaker doesn't show up.
Ooh, a pocket speech. So what do you have right now? What's in your pocket then?
Well, what I'm working on now for Inform, I believe in August, is the secret to success. All the things you probably think you know, but aren't really what you should know. So looking at success. And one of my quick stories is I had a speech I was working on, operating in a chaotic world when chaos shows up, how to navigate chaos. I attended a chamber meeting for a holistic chamber, and the speaker got in a car accident, didn't show up. So there we were with a group of about 30 people, and I'm like, well, I've been working on this speech, and it was queued up and ready to go. So
that's a great topic. Where do we know that there's a chaotic world happening right now? Let me think about it. That's something you could merchandise out right now. And I love the idea too, if you're active in, you just gave me a great idea. If you're active in chamber organizations, contact the heads of those chambers or the event people and just say, hey, if you're ever in a bind for finding a speaker, hi, I can help you out. And you never know, somebody gets sick or another obligation comes up. Oftentimes these are not paid, so a client engagement comes up that pulls you out. That's a great idea. I love that. But it's good for you. You had that visibility and that opportunity with that organization. And later on, I'm curious about that. You said it's a holistic chamber. I'm going to ask you for the link because I want to include that in the playback of the show so people can look that up.
And then so let's go to the next one. And here's what you're going to go back and forth. So you could be Enhance and Flood and maybe flip back to Predict and Tune. So these aren't static steps. So the next one is Distinguish, Explain, and Understand. A very important part. And Brenda, you're probably in this stage yourself. So you're actually able to distinguish what is working in your organization and explain it to somebody. Like I was actually able to distinguish what worked about starting this group and explain it so somebody could understand it. So that's key, right? You got to, as you go through these things, to be able to really get understanding and be able to explain it to somebody, because people are going to, well, tell me about ATSO, right? And there I was. I could distinguish it. I could explain it. They would understand it.
Yeah, I like it. And that explanation was probably a bit coming from who's asking, what is their vested interest in the organization? Are they looking to participate, to refer people, to speak, and kind of understanding that. And you can draw from your experience of being in the organization and the success story to date at that point. I love it. Yeah.
Yep. And then the final one, enroll and lose. So you're not going to like the ending of this story. It's lose. Okay. But let me get there. Let me get there. So enroll and lose. So at that stage, I'm able to effortlessly enroll students in participation. Like, you know your organization. I can, talk to anybody about it. I'm very effective. Like, why? And so enroll. Now, what I did also, another smart move, it's not all about me. I enrolled career services in the value of our organization. So guess what? I had 5 other people in career services enrolling students in attending my group. So now when somebody meets with career services, it's not me talking, it's them. They're saying, you need to join this group. They're up to something. Yeah,
that's great. So and they were like advocates and served up almost as ambassadors for you, an extension of what you were doing and what the leaders of ASSA were doing too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really important to expand your enrollment team.
So the concept here, we're talking about 7 steps to implementing a new idea or project, Deb, and you're talking about a membership organization, but how does step 7 apply to something that is a new idea or project that's not like a membership or an event? How does step 7 apply to that?
So for any project, any project based in any situation, you're moving through the steps. You've got ideas. Your supervisor said, here's your project. Here's your big idea. Sometimes your big idea is given to you. And then you're going to be working on it. Remember, forget. You're going to strengthen and build support. You'll go to your teams. You're going to be able to figure out what's working, what's not. You'll figure out what you can add to make it better. You're going to be able to distinguish and explain it to your supervisor. This is what I've accomplished. This is where we're at. This is how I'm going to expand. So you're, again, enrolling and expanding your team. Okay. Now, and the lose part. So this is a great one. So if you're really successful, like this ATSO organization, in building this organization, somewhere along the line, people are going to forget that it was my big idea. Right. Like the idea is so much bigger. It's bigger than me, which it has to be if you really want longevity and the time, no time limit on your big idea, project, whatever. At some point, somebody else along the way is going to think it was their idea.
And or they're just embracing the idea and separating it from the originator.
Maybe, right, exactly. Right? Exactly.
Reminds me a little bit of a parent, Deb, and you're a parent, and I think Jesse's watching right now. So as a parent, like the kids, they are ours, right? To shape and to mold and to instill morals and teach them manners and, everything up until the point that they start to become these independent little people, right? And like my 15-year-old son, he's not hearing me talk about him because he's probably still in bed. It's 10:30. He doesn't like when we wake him up. He's like, why are you waking me up? And I'm like, well, because you can't sleep all day. But he's like, but why? And I can hear his brain and the gears turning, and I understand. I can empathize with him. I'm like, well, because you just shouldn't spend your day sleeping, because then you're going to be up all night, and we get in this really bad cycle of staying up. But at some point, you need to, as a parent, say, okay, my work here is done. Go out and be a good human being, and please be safe. Right? Right. And that's, I think, a bit of like, it's not losing, but you need to like set them free and trust that they are good people and that they will come back to you when they need advice and whatnot. But you have to like separate yourself from it, and that's a bit of losing that control, I guess. If you will. Exactly.
Yeah. And Jessie started her also. So Jessie, and I'm sure she went through the same steps we just talked about. And, it's just, and the smart thing she did along the way, she kept building a good team of advisors, which Brenda, you're masterful at. You're realizing even though you're an independent businesswoman, you have an advisory board. I mean, they may not be sitting at a board, table somewhere waiting for you to show up, but you have them. When you have questions and when you're struggling in different areas, you need a board to reach out to. We need a team. Even if we're an entrepreneur alone, you need a team.
Absolutely. And I've got to give a big shout out to Jessie. I hope she's still watching. I think I saw her comment come in a little bit earlier. Let me see if I can find it and I'll pop it up on screen. But Jessie was one of the people very early on for me. I mean, when I first left Walsh, I was going to be looking for another job, and I was interviewing and I was talking to a lot of people. And I was starting to get here it is. She's sitting on her front porch. I was, having like coffee meetups and lunches, and I knew of Jessie from Walsh, and she and I both spoke at an event together. And I remember I was like, wow, she's young in her career, but she's like a rocket, and she's just like shooting on out of the sky, and she's blowing up in her career, and she's so young. And I was like, wow, that's amazing to me. And she was one of the people I reached out, and I was like, I was getting approached at the time for doing some social media management and things. And I always told my clients at the time, like, well, I'm just going to do this until I find a job, and then I'll find somebody to take over for you. And Jessie was one of those people I reached out to. And I said, hey, are you open to taking on clients when I go back to work? Because that was always the plan. And I met with her, and I have to give her a huge shout out too, because Jessie, you taught me a lot. I learned from people like Jessie. One of the things she shared with me was on social media, use 5 or more words in your comment. So that's where I heard it from. I've always given her credit on that, but I've told so many people about that. And across networks and across platforms, there's different algorithms, but when you use 5 or more words, it really helps engagement, to peak. And I've learned from her. I mean, I surround myself with people smarter than me. I've always believed, and I think you're the same way, Deb, that you will grow more by supporting people in your network and by reaching out and by asking for support than you will by attacking people and pushing your competition away and being very stingy with information and insights. Right. Yeah, but you've raised a wonderful daughter. So I just have to commend you as a mom, and Jessie, she's just wonderful. So I think, Deb, this might be a good segue to, let's see who's online with us. And then we'll see if anyone has any questions. We'll move into Q&A. Does that sound okay?
That sounds great.
Perfect. So, and I did encourage you guys, if you were watching, I'm going to actually pop us up into a little bit of a different view here so we can see your comments here. We've got Cynthia watching with us. Herbert is watching from Nairobi. So, Deb, we are international this morning. Look at that. Very cool. Brenda Taylor's in her living room. Amy is in Detroit-ish. I'm guessing that might mean Metro Detroit or Detroit area. So welcome to have you here, Amy. We have Michael, Little Rock, in living room with daughter on his lap. So good morning, Michael, and to your daughter. You guys are watching us. Cynthia's USA, Trotwood, Ohio, in her home office. Claudette is from Rochester Hills in her home office. Isn't this fun to see where people are and what part of the house they're in? Yeah. We've got Scott from Royal Oak, Michigan. Another international viewer today, Adis from Bosnia and Herzegovina. So thank you for joining us. Lysandra from South Africa. Good morning or good afternoon or good evening. I'm not sure what time in your part of the world, but thank you for joining us. Eva says it is warm and dry in Detroit. Now, when I see LinkedIn user, this is because your privacy settings are set up. So if this was you and you're not sure how to adjust your privacy settings, message me and I'll give you instructions on that. Let's see who else we have here. So it looks like some folks are just saying hi to one another. Some auditors, I think, commenting on your ATSO group. Mandy's going to actually be on with me tomorrow on LinkedIn Live. So good morning, Mandy. So you can see a little bit of the process behind the scenes here. Amy says she's been working from home for 25 years. Yeah, and you're what, about 2 months working from home, Deb?
Yes.
At this point? Yeah, so 2 months in. But we were talking before the call about the fact that now that we've been doing this for 2 months, in the beginning we were kind of thinking, well, it'll probably be 3 weeks, and oh, am I going to be able to do that? But now it's like 2 months in, going on the 3rd month here. We could probably do this easily another 2 to 6 months. We don't want to, right, necessarily. But we've kind of settled into this new normal of life right now. So
yeah, I'm signing up for the 3-2 plan. 3 days at home and 2 in the office.
Oh, are they starting to kind of get plans in like that?
It's my big idea.
I love it. I've heard my sister is going back to work. She works in Troy in an office, and I think they're doing 1 week on, 1 week off, and they're rotating the team. I'm not sure if they're splitting it or if they're rotating kind of back and forth in there or what, but I think organizations are going to be very creative about their approaches to keeping people safe and also to helping their employees feel comfortable, because I don't know about you, Deb. I love that we're all at home right now. I was like happy when I heard the governor was releasing some restrictions and opening restaurants and things like that. And then we also got a notice from our community pool. We're in Fraser, Michigan, and we belong to the community pool. We got a notice from the pool saying, hey, the health department said we can open up. And I was like, yay. I'm not sure if I'm happy about that, because we join the pool, and will it be germ free? You know, how many people will be there? It's a lot of you know, angst creating. But anyways, off of that topic, we have a question, Deb, for you. So this is from Herbert. Do the steps apply to starting a new business? What do you think?
Absolutely. It's the big idea. Whatever business adventure you're up to, you start with having the idea, then you're listening, right? You want to listen to, is there really a need? Do you see what was the product be? You're really doing kind of that market research. Then you're going to go into remember, forget. I'm telling you, it's going to happen.
Remember and forget. I love it.
Yeah. And then you'll start, you know, strengthening, building support, finding more customer product information. You're going to have some failures along the way. Welcome them. If somebody's not telling you what's not working, you don't have a chance to fix it. Yeah. Once they stop talking to you, you're in trouble. Yeah. If they're telling you what's not working, you're succeeding.
Yeah, a really important point there, because and there are people who lead by fear and intimidation, and there are inclusive leaders, right, Deb? And right. The fear and intimidation are going to say, like, this is the way we do things, and either step in line or step out, you know, and I don't want to hear your feedback about what's not working and what we could be improving. And the inclusive leaders, the collaborative leaders, are going to ask the questions. Okay, things aren't working, and they're going to get together. I mean, just like you said, for me in my business, I get together a group of people and say, okay, how do I need to attack this from different angles? What am I missing? You know, what viewpoints am I not seeing? And collaborative leaders are going to do that same thing. And as entrepreneurs, you know, Herbert, you can do that same thing. Is get together your virtual, if you will, board of directors. Start thinking about, where do you not have strengths? So, like, for me, I'm a marketer, so I got that part down. But I needed a CPA. I needed somebody who had some legal expertise. I needed somebody from an HR background once I started adding in interns and independent contractors. And then I also needed people, you know, who were focused in operations and process development and everything as I was getting my business in place. So yeah, definitely surround yourself with those people. And a really great question. And Herbert, you know, best of luck to you. It sounds like you might be thinking about starting a business or in that process already. So really wishing you the best of luck there. Let's keep going to our hellos, and then we'll wrap in just a minute or so here. We have Ann joining us from Columbus, Ohio. Let's see who else. Evan was on with me. He's a fellow Troy Chamber member, and I know, Deb, you're involved with the Troy Chamber as well. Yeah. Do you have any events coming up that you're attending for the Troy Chamber that you know of offhand?
Not that I know of.
I can't think of any right now. I know they do some happy hours, and I think they may have had one this morning or tomorrow morning. I got to look. It was a 9 a.m. I remember that, but I know I love seeing you. I'm like, hey, and I think that's where I reached out to you. I think it was in a Troy Chamber event, and I said, hey, Deb, do you want to come on live with me sometime? And you know, we got the conversation started. So good networking.
It's a great morning. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Jennifer Laidlaw, being open to and even seeking out feedback, very, very important. Completely agree. It's the key to success. So Herbert says thanks. All right, so I am going to kind of start to wrap us up here today, and I want to do one thing. I want to pop in Deb's URL up on screen, see if I can kind of pull it here below. Yeah. So Deb, are you open to accepting connection requests from viewers that are watching us here today?
Absolutely. So open to lots of different possibilities. You know, I'm an enrollment consultant at Walsh. I'm always open to talking about our grad programs or even just taking a class as a non-degree at Walsh. Part of, you know, this process is strengthening and building support is maybe, you know, taking a course. So, you know, feel free to reach out to me for career advice, any number of different areas.
Awesome. And the steps that you were referring to today, Deb, I know you probably said this in the beginning, and I've forgotten, and our viewers may have as well. Was it from a book or from a TED Talk, or where could we find that if we wanted to read more about the process steps that you were going through today?
So it was from a Landmark education course. So Landmark is a weekend education program, and it was in their wisdom course. So it's one of their higher level courses that was just a picnic to do.
Awesome. Well, I may ask you if you have the link where people could learn more. I'll include that in the show notes later on.
Okay.
If anybody's interested. So we're going to kind of move into a wrap now, Deb.
Yeah.
Any final comments you'd like to give to the group, shout outs, etc.?
I just really appreciate the opportunity to be here and share ideas. I think in this time where we're all kind of maybe sitting someplace waiting to get something going, and we are moving in that direction, use these steps, get a big idea and start a plan, and don't be afraid to, try out different ideas along the way.
Love it. Well, thank you, Deb. This has just been a lovely conversation. And as we wrap, I want to remind people to share the video here below and definitely connect with, I'm going to kind of gesture to her now, Deb Mourray here on LinkedIn. When you reach out and connect with her, mention that you saw her during this live interview. If you have any questions for her, definitely you can drop them in the links below. This will, it will sit on Facebook and LinkedIn. It will also be on YouTube later on, and I'll make sure I'll share the links with Deb so she can check those out. So Deb, stay healthy, stay safe. I'll see you online, next Thursday? It's only like a little bit. So yeah, awesome. All right, well, thank you again. And then as we wrap here, I just want to remind you guys, if you're not already, go to mellermarketing.com/subscribe. You'll get notification about my upcoming LinkedIn live interview schedule, as well as I send out LinkedIn strategy tips and upcoming notices about my webinars and virtual events as well. So thank you, Deb. Have a beautiful day. What do you got planned for the rest of the day? Anything exciting here?
Not too much exciting, just kind of getting outside and taking some awesome dog walks, that's for sure.
That's right. Yeah, we'll get outside, enjoy that beautiful Michigan weather while we have it, and we will see you around.
All right, great. Thank you.
All right, guys, thanks again for watching. Appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you leave a comment before you leave here today. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe and stay healthy. We'll see you soon.